This is Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. It's powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters. Hey entrepreneurs, my name is Felix and I'm the host of the Shopify Masters podcast. Each week we put out podcast interviews with successful e-commerce entrepreneurs or experts to give you inspiration, motivation, and actionable tips to increase your traffic and sales so your store can generate the sales you need to live the life you want. In the last episode, Brittany Haas from happilyeverborrow.com explains how she uses style quizzes to convert customers and collect highly useful customer data. On today's episode, you'll learn from an entrepreneur that started a $1,500 per day business, even though she doesn't like taking risks. In this episode, you'll learn how to break through self-doubt in entrepreneurship, how to start a business when you don't like taking big risks, and why it might not be a good idea to collaborate with other brands. Today, I'm joined by Shilpi Yadav from karakapas.com. That's KHARAKAPAS.com, which is a fashion brand with a modern take on Indian heritage and based out of Delhi, India, and started in 2015. Welcome, Shilpi.
Hi, Felix. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, excited to have you on. So tell us a little bit more about your store, this brand, and what are some of the products that you sell?
Okay, so Karakapas, as mentioned, means pure cotton in local Hindi language. So what we sell is cotton clothing. Primarily women's wear, and the idea is to basically work with our local Indian crafts, motifs, our heritage, and give our clothing a modern touch through our designs, and thereby making it truly global. So that's the basic idea behind the brand.
Awesome. So how did you get started with this? Did you have a background in fashion?
Actually, yes. I've had inclination towards design and art from the beginning. And I also attained a degree in fashion designing and fine arts. I graduated from an art college, and then I did my master's in apparel design from NID. And then I also studied in Los Angeles, FIDN for some time, where I was actually studying fashion management. This is a study bit, but then I also happened to have the chance of working with a couple of design houses in India. And also had the experience of working with some fashion startups. And gradually I was able to reach a position where I was working as an art director in one of the e-commerce companies in India. And I think it was that experience along with my innate passion towards fashion that motivated me to start something of my own.
Makes sense. So, what were the first steps towards this? It sounds like you had a lot of experience. You had it sounded like a fast-growing career working all these different companies. How did you begin taking steps towards starting your own business?
Honestly, I was very skeptical about doing something of my own from the very beginning. And that's the reason why I worked with the various companies. But, my batchmates, my friends, and everybody had actually already started working on something of their own. But I was always very skeptical because the operations, the business, and the risk-taking side really scared me. But it was actually the work satisfaction primarily. I just experimented with a lot of things in the design industry, but I never truly got an absolute satisfaction working for someone because there was always something new, something different, something challenging that I wanted to do. But somehow, because when you're working for someone, something or the other just stops you because it's not never your word, it's always your boss's word or the organization or someone on your top. So I think it was that passion that I really wanted to do what I really believed in, my design sensibility, that pushed me towards starting something of my own.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you are working for someone, even if you want to do something, you need approval from others. When you do have your own business, it becomes you're the decision maker at the end of the day. You can decide how you want to take things, what you want to spend your time on. So you mentioned that you're skeptical about starting something of your own. I think this is a very important topic because a lot of beginner entrepreneurs, a lot of people that are thinking about starting a business for the first time also go through this. They wonder, is it worth taking that jump, taking that leap into starting something of their own? So can you talk a little bit more about this? Like, what do you think? What were you skeptical about exactly? What made you kind of hesitant to start your own business?
What happens is that when you're trying to do something of your own, you end up talking to a lot of people. And, as they say, that limited knowledge is not always very good. So I would always listen to other people, their experiences, and the kind of hard work and the effort that they had to put in. And sometimes it would not work out. And that used to scare me a little because, I never had a lot of financial backing to start something. I knew that I would have to do it completely on my own. And I was very skeptical about taking loans from the bank or, from somewhere else. And so I wanted to start something which was very organically funded, something that, I could put in a little sum of money. And so that the risk was lower. And, so those things used to really scare me about big money, big game, losing your money or your product not being accepted in the market. That little bit of, confidence issue that happens when you haven't really tried and tested the market. So those things really scared me. Besides me being a complete art person, design person, the operations and the finance and the logistics bit never came to me easily. So I was always scared about, getting into something of my own because of these reasons.
No, that makes sense. The risk is definitely there. And then when you hear so many basically war stories, so many battle stories about all the effort that goes in, like you're saying, and then things just not turning out the right way, it can get discouraging. You start letting all these negative thoughts kind of enter your brain and discourage you from getting started for the first time. So what do you think made you change your mind and actually start moving forward, even though you were feeling this kind of skepticism, feeling this kind of self-doubt?
So I had been debating this topic for a very long time about doing something of my own. I think it was a situation at work where I really felt stagnated at what I was doing. There was too much frustration at work in terms of I was not able to use my talent and my creativity to the full extent. So, there came a point, it comes in everyone's life when you think that, okay, maybe this is a success, maybe it's not. But if it's not, at least you will know that you gave it your best shot. You tried it. So it was, I think, at that moment, I thought that I don't care about what other people do or what they say or what happens with them. Let me just at least give it my best shot now. Because, I was at that point when I started Khara Kapas, I was 32, 33 years old. And I thought that, this is a time where I can take this risk. I do have a little bit of understanding of things. I have a little bit of maturity that I've gained in my workspace. So why not and I had a little bit of savings that I could actually put into my business. And I think putting all of that together, I thought that I am going to just give it a shot, see for next 6 months how it goes. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, I'll go back to work, I'll think of something else. So I think it was that moment that I thought that, let's just take the plunge.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to approach it where you just kind of consider what's the worst that could happen and then deciding for yourself, can you deal with this? And it sounded like that's what you went through. You said, let me take 6 months and try my best. If it doesn't work, the game's not over. You can just restart or go back to what you were doing before. So did you jump into this business full time? Did you quit your job and go into it full time, or how did you set up So how did you, in this kind of low risk tolerance that you had? Again, this is a very common, I think, feeling that a lot of first time entrepreneurs have where they don't want to take a lot of risk. Were you able to set up the business in a way that worked with that kind of low risk tolerance that you had?
Yes, it actually did. So I started a clothing label. So I was always appreciated for my design sensibility. And when I was working for other brands, my designs always worked really well. The biggest risk that was involved in what I was doing was I wanted to work only with cotton. The material that I wanted to work was only cotton, which was sort of risky because, it's not very highly priced product. B, there are not a lot of people who only want to wear cotton. When you have a variety of materials, then you have a variety of options to work with. But I knew from the very beginning when the concept was decided, and cotton being my favorite fabric, I wanted to do something that was close to my heart, because I knew that if I do something that's close to my heart and I believe in, then it has to be right. I do not need to do something that I don't need to be in the rat race where everybody else is doing. Let me just do something that I believe in. So what I did was I started very, very small. I started from a single room in my house, and I picked up 2 second-hand machines, and I hired a workman, a tailor, and I started like that. So my investment was very, very low because I didn't have to pay rentals. I did not have to pay electricity bill. Anything additional was not there. It was on a very small scale. And so that's how we started. I did not advertise or do anything at that point of time. But the minute I got ready with my first collection, and of course, our social media is so good these days. I started with Facebook, Instagram, and I just did a small pop-up, just amongst friends and family to just see the response I would get. So the investment was very, very low. I also wanted to know that what I think, what I believe, is it getting the same response from people? And I was lucky enough to get a phenomenal response in my first pop-up and the first collection that I did. And, that gave me the encouragement to take a slightly bigger step. So I took very, very small steps. I did not go all out with my business. I just took baby steps.
I like that one of the issues when you have low risk tolerance, one of the things that can make it worse is just putting way too many, investing too much. And then now you have all this stress about all the money that you've invested. And now you have the stress on top of the low risk tolerance, and that doesn't help you make the right decisions for your business. I like that you took these kind of small steps at a time. So you said that you gave yourself basically 6 months to figure it out. Did you have specific goals that you wanted to reach before you decided, okay, this test, the 6-month test, the 6-month trial was a success, let me continue? Did you have any goals in mind?
When I started, the only thing that I was thinking about was that I will not take a loan, or I would not take a phenomenal amount of money that would put too much pressure on me. So I knew that for the first initial investment that I made, which was of about, I had invested about 70 to 80,000. And I thought that I would let that money, and I'm talking about rupees. So I thought I would let that money actually churn. It should become a cycle, that whatever I've investment should get me some return, and I should use that profit to invest back into the business. So that is the thought process I had in my mind. And I had expected that I would sell maybe about 40 to 50 dresses, in probably initially. And I thought maybe I'll sell about 100, 200 dresses in the first 2 or 3 months. And that was the figure I had in my mind, because I had just no idea of how the market is going to respond, the pricing, anything, nothing I knew. But it just worked really well. It just kicked off. I got an overwhelming response. The demand increased so much. In fact, when I started, I wanted to do only Facebook or exhibitions or things like that, because I was not very tech savvy and I just didn't know how am I going to set up a website or do something like that. But the response that I got in the first 1 month was so good that I knew that I immediately have to set up a platform where I don't need to take calls from people about, this is the design, this is the sizing, this is the pricing. But I have a platform where people can go and see, okay, so this is what she has, this is what she's offering, and they can just pick up. So that was the initial motivation for me to even set up a website when I started.
So you actually didn't have a website at first. You were just on social media and people were emailing you for orders?
Yes, that's how it happened. The first month was just like that.
That makes a lot of sense too. Again, I really like your approach where this I think works perfectly for anybody. Again, with low risk tolerance, like you don't have to have a site, you don't have to set up everything at once. Initially, you don't want to get too involved. In a sense, you want to basically find what's the fastest, what's the easiest, and what is the cheapest as well way to start getting sales. And it sounded like that's what you did. And you only open up a store, you only open up a site when it made sense, when you actually needed to do it. And just for anyone that wants to know the conversion rate for that initial investment, I think that's about $1,100, $1,200 US for your initial investment of 70 to 80,000 rupees. So the first customers you got, you mentioned I think earlier pop-ups. Were these like physical in pop-up shops, pop-up stores, or were you selling mostly through social media?
So initially, it was when I launched, I started with a pop-up, which was like a small exhibition, a physical exhibition that I did. I had called people through messages, Facebook invite, and all the people I knew, friends and family, and friends and friends of friends, I call them. And there was a small event that was happening locally, and I thought that I'll also put up my brand there and see the response I get. So I had probably invested somewhere around $200 for that pop-up that I did, and that gave me that was around 1st of February is when I launched it. I think 3rd Feb was the exact date when I actually exhibited last year, 2015. And again, I had about 50 designs with me, and I went there. And the response I got was just phenomenal. And there were people who were calling me after that because I had my visiting card. They'd taken my visiting card. They went on the website. They liked my page. They started following me. They started calling me. And they wanted to come to my house to see stuff. And at that point, I didn't even have like a physical space. So it was just like a room, and I had one rack where my clothes were hanging, and I'd converted a small room into a space where people could actually come and see. But honestly, what really works well, I think it's worldwide, is that women would do anything for clothes. They would go anywhere and they would actually do anything if they like something and they want to pick it up. So my customer being women, it was they all actually made the initiative to come to see, to buy from, and they placed orders of what they saw. And this was in the month of Feb, and by March I'd already started thinking about actually having an online space to start showing my stuff, because it would be financially not very expensive, and my reach would be greater with lower investment. And I think at 1st April is when I actually went live, when I did my first sale online.
That's awesome. So I think, again, your approach is awesome that you just took one step at a time. You didn't have to go too big right away. But were you ever concerned about trying to, I guess, uphold an image of your business being bigger than it is? Because, this is, I think, a common thought that a lot of entrepreneurs have, which is that they don't want to launch right away. They want to wait as long as possible because they want to make everything perfect and come out with a big splash, right? And have a big brand, big image, and make it appear that their brand is bigger than it actually is. Did that ever cross your mind that, you're worried that people will come to your house and just go browse through your room's rack for clothing? Like, was that ever a concern for you?
Actually, it was. And I was a little, because, I'd worked in corporate sector, so I saw how things are supposed to be. There's supposed to be branding, imaging. You work with ad agencies, and, you're very demanding about, your client and the brand you want to build. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I was very, very confident about and very sure about was A, my quality, and B, the product that I was making, I knew it would be unique. I was sure about my design sensibility. And I knew that, I really cannot go very big in terms of, investing in branding, marketing, because it would be too expensive. So I knew that I need to make a good product. And if you make a good product and you do not compromise with, your basic principles and what is holding you together, then I think eventually, slowly, things do turn out in your favor. So Khara Kapas has been like a big example for myself too, actually setting an example for myself too, because I actually just did not do any paid marketing to make the brand. It was all very organic, and because of the product I made. Mm-hmm. So, on one hand, it scares you. You think that, you should not be seen as, just any other brand or something that's not very professional. But I think because I had the privilege of speaking with my customers directly on one-to-one basis. So they got the confidence that, this is someone who's really passionate about what she's doing, and she promises the quality and she will deliver. So I think that helped me get my clientele and build that trust in people from the beginning.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the pop-up shop that you and you started with, I think there's also another strategy that a lot of people can start with that's relatively low cost. You don't have to go all out and buy a website and set everything up. Yeah, you can just start selling in person. Tell us a bit more about how this was set up. Was this at like some kind of you said an exhibition? Were there other sellers around you?
Yes, so there was this exhibition that I'd heard of, because I wanted to go very small and I didn't want to invest a lot of money. So I knew that if I do something just completely on my own, it probably will not get me the right footfall, the right kind of people who would probably come to see my stuff. So I actually, there was a small exhibition that was happening locally, and these were professionals who keep doing these pop-ups and exhibitions, and they call a lot of other brands, and they have shortlisted their clientele over a period of few years. So they know the sort of people. So I first met the organizer and I told them that, I'm just starting out. I just want a small space. I can't invest too much money. So I got a stall for about 10K. Again, as I mentioned, it was about $200 and $150, $200. And I said that I will set up the space. It was a 2-day event and from morning to evening. And I said that I cannot take something big. I want something very small. And they saw my product. They said, that you will do well. You can take a bigger space. But I said, no, I'm not sure. I want to take something very small. And they had their guest list. I had created an event on Facebook. I invited people. I sent WhatsApp messages to all my friends, my family, my relatives, everybody who I could think of. And so we had a decent footfall. A lot of people came. A lot of people saw the products. They obviously got to know of me. The only thing was that the reach was local. It was just within the region, within Gurgaon. It was not something that was outside Delhi or Gurgaon. So the reach was that way is very small, but it definitely helped to spread the word around, and it definitely got a lot of people to come to actually visit me personally at my space at home, which was the next step of me actually thinking about setting up a small studio and setting up an online portal to actually start selling. So every step helped me to take the next step, or made me feel or realize that, okay, I can take one step bigger now. So that really helped.
So when you reached out to your media network or your friends and family to promote this pop-up shop, I think a lot of people that get started, they do the same things, which is to try to sell their products essentially, or promote their products to their network at first. But the goal is always to break beyond that, right? You don't want to just sell to your friends and family because they're limited. You're not going to be able to sell. You're not going to run a business just from friends and family. So this initial pop-up, even though you were only reaching out to your media network, did it also reach to people beyond just that network? Like, how did it spread to more than just your friends and family?
Actually, initially when I had thought about, even before I actually did this pop-up, I had actually started I put my products on Facebook, and I was actually selling through this Etsy. I'm sure you've heard of it. Etsy is a marketplace which is global. So the idea was basically to sell internationally. I thought that the product that I'm making would probably not do very well in my own country because, the prints were very ethnic, very, I was working with local crafts, but my designs were very Western. It was very wearable. It was very modern, something very basic and minimalist. But what happened in the process was that I got a lot of eyeball from the Indian market also. I think I personally feel, what my understanding is, it was through the people who connected with you on Facebook, when how it works when someone likes your post, it just gets someone else's attention also. And you share it and someone else also gets to know about it, someone who might probably not be my friend but someone's friend. The whole networking process works well. So I think that's how I also got a lot of attention from people who were not my friends, but because obviously the account was public and they shared, so a lot of other people got to know about the brand and they liked the designs and they inquired about it. So it was through that. It was through friends of friends. The immediate friends and family, obviously, they didn't even invest into the brand so much at that point of time. It was much later, but it was friends and friends of friends who actually showed interest and who actually wrote to me and who connected with me to actually come and see the designs.
So it was almost a kicking off, a launching point just to first promote to your friends and your family. And because of them liking or sharing your products that you're posting online, that spread to others. So I think this is something I've heard a lot from other entrepreneurs that took the same steps as you, which is to sell physically offline first, which is that they learn a lot about their customers objections to buying, like the questions that they were asking that they might not have learned from just selling online from the start. Do you remember anything specifically when you were selling in person with a pop-up that you don't think you would have been able to pick up if you just sold online?
Of course, one of the biggest thing is that, since you're working with something new, something different, you want to actually see how your product falls on your customer. You want to see that what the customer thinks about the fabric, what the customer thinks about the design sensibility. The sort of response is always a little bit of feedback that you get from people when you speak with them personally. So those things make a huge difference. So the kind of feedback I got about the falls and the fit was very important because, I buy in general the kind of clothes I made, it just attracted women above the age of 30. And they are always not the skinniest and they always don't wear, the petite fits and all. So for them, it was very important to touch and feel the fabric and for me to see how it's falling on my customer. That was very important to see the product on a customer. So that kind of experience I only got when I spoke to my customers. Then, I experimented with some fabrics which probably had not been worked on. For example, I worked with a very fine quality of cotton called malmal, which is very lightweight, which a lot of people don't work with. But I wanted to do just plains and solids. But I didn't know the response I would get. And when I actually saw customers wear it and see it, I got a very positive response about it. And then I realized that this fabric is probably going to be something that's going to be a major part of my clothing line or my collection, because the fabric was really appreciated by people. So even in cotton, you have so many varieties, and then you experiment with that, and then you present that to your customer, and then you know that what is actually kicking off and what is not, what is working really well, what is probably not working so well. So that kind of response you only get when you speak to your customers.
Do you remember if were there any, because it sounded like you wanted to see how the clothing looked on your customers, but did you also try to ask any specific questions to get useful feedback out of these interactions with customers in person?
Yes, of course. I spoke to them about, what do they think about the cuts and the silhouettes, and, how do they feel the fabric falls on them. Because there are a couple of brands who do cotton clothing as well. But I think what differentiated Khara Kapaso, my brand, from those brands was my design sensibility. Because my designs, there were a lot of variety in designs, and it was a little more modern than the regular designs that were available in the market. So I wanted to understand that what do my customers think about it, or will I be able to attract the sort of sensibility I want to be attracted towards me. Because cotton is something that people want to wear, but the kind of silhouettes I do, it was a certain kind of customer who would have been attracted towards me. And what I realized was that I was quite right there, because there's a segment of women in that category who liked my clothes. The ones who wanted something very minimalistic, something that is very comfortable, something that was really soft on their skin. And that's exactly what I got to hear from my customers again and again. And of course, there were some people who told me that, your clothes are very expensive for cotton. There are some people who came and told me that your clothes are so reasonable. So then I realized there's always going to be a variety of customers. So I really don't need to work on my pricing based on what the customer is going to buy, but what I think is the true value of my product, and then the right customer who actually understands that will come to me on their own. So that's how that worked for my pricing also, because I got a lot of people. Imagine the same exhibition, there are about 10 women who walked in, 2 who said that I'm highly priced, 2 who said that it's okay, 2 who said I'm underpriced. And there were some who just picked up, 4-5 pieces and walked off. So I realized that, it's going to be that percentage of people who actually know that what I'm doing is fine, and they really appreciate the fabric. So I really don't have to worry about my pricing. I don't have to worry about my fits and things like that. That I got to know only after meeting people. Because otherwise what happens, what I've realized over a period of time is sometimes, there are people who'll come and write you feedback or send you a message or say something about, you're very highly priced. And then you start thinking, when you don't interact with the customers, you don't meet them, then you think that, maybe everybody thinks we are so highly priced. But when you do these physical, pop-ups and you interact with people, then you get to know about what they actually think about the fabric. What do they think about your quality? What do they think about your pricing? And then, you can actually fathom that information over a period of time to understand whether you are in the right direction or not, and whether you are doing the right thing or not. And, those things really make a huge difference in shaping up the brand eventually.
Yeah, I like that. I like that when you go and talk to these people in person, it humanizes the feedback a little bit more and gives you better understand the nuances of why they feel a certain way, right? If someone online sees your product and sees that it's overpriced or they think it's overpriced, they just may leave and never come back, but you will never know, why exactly do they feel that way. But if it's in person and they express that to you, you can at least get the opportunity to dig a little bit deeper, understand more about their thought process about why they think it's might be overpriced. So I think having that opportunity to follow up with questions and understand the nuances, that's only possible in person and not possible online. And the other important thing that you mentioned was about getting this conflicting feedback. Like you're saying, some people were saying that your prices were reasonable, and then equally people were saying that they were too high. And I think the important point to take out of this is that you cannot please everybody, and you shouldn't try to please everybody, because when you do that, then you end up pleasing nobody, right? And you should really focus your attention. And I think this is exactly what you're getting at, exactly what you did, which is focus your attention on the people that are already your ideal customers, that they're already ready to buy. You don't have to spend so much time convincing them, and focus on them rather than trying to focus on people that are so far away from buying and trying to convince them, because it's not worth your time. So I want to talk about, so far we've been talking about these little steps that you've been taking, so so that build on top of each other and that weren't too large, that made you uncomfortable. Do you remember, were there any steps that you took along the way that maybe you felt were too big or maybe too early, and maybe you could have waited a bit before taking a leap?
Yes, but the thing is that what I figured out is that initially, of course, when I started, and I've been lucky to have a very supportive family, I must mention that, because they really, really helped me calm down, because there were moments when I would just lose my cool and I didn't know what I was doing. I think the things that I did initially was that I collaborated with a couple of stores, which a lot of people do, but I somehow personally now at this point feel that it's not really necessary for everyone to do that, at least not for me. Is when you collaborate with stores, is basically when you're trying to expand your brand. How do you do it? You have an online presence. Then you collaborate with some online stores who probably also, they have a bigger market base. They have a bigger clientele. So it helps to, spread the word around, or it just increases the brand visibility of your label. And then you also collaborate with some physical stores who actually retail your clothes. Those really nice stores who do a lot of other designers also. But in my case, I feel that, initially I did enter into a phase where I did collaborate with a couple of online market space for a short duration of time, which was, I would say, maybe about a month or 2 months. A couple of things that I realized was that it was absolutely unnecessary for me to do it, because my own sale through my own store, my web store, was increased so well and at a steady phase that that collaboration was not really required for me. I thought that it was sort of it just diluted the brand a little bit for that some time, because it was not really required. I thought that if I expand to other places, it would just help to spread the word around. But I was smart enough to actually withdraw my brand very soon, because I realized that I'm getting a lot of orders. But the thing is that other stores also eat in a little bit of margin, and that for a small player like me, I thought was not fair, because I was putting in so much effort and hard work, and even giving that 30% to 25% of margin of my sale to someone else, I thought was something that I should not have done. But as I mentioned, it was just a learning. I mean, I realized soon enough that there's no rush. There's no hurry to spread the word. It'll happen slowly, slowly.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it makes logical sense, right? It makes sense that when you talk about it, that if you want to grow your brand, collaborate with other people that have similar target customers as you, that have similar audiences, and work together to grow it. But you found that it was maybe too early. Do you know that if there's a certain time where that might make sense, especially for a fashion brand, to start thinking about collaboration? Should you have a much more established brand before you consider that as a potential marketing and sales channel?
So I think it's both ways. Initially, if you don't want to really build a brand and you just want to increase the sales without building a brand, then you can just collaborate with a lot of people, because that will definitely increase the sales. But in my case, I obviously knew that I have a niche product, and that's why wherever I would put my product, my sales were phenomenally good. So I realized that that thing that made me understand was that I have the potential to make it really big and increase my sales immensely. I just have to make sure that I get enough eyeballs and I'm able to present my work in the right manner and through right channels. Because if I was getting good sales when I put a flash event somewhere and I got very good sales, but somebody else ate up that percentage of my margin. So then I realized that the product is good. I'm getting such good sales in such a short duration of time. Then might as well use that energy to actually focus on my own product, my own platform, my own shop, and try getting more eyeballs there instead of actually doing it with someone else. So I feel that that is something that I understood at that point of time. Now that I've established and I know that people know about the brand, and I do quite well in my exhibitions, and which I continue to do actually. What I started doing sometime back now, probably I'm very picky and choosy about the events that I do, because I know I've reached that stage where I can be picky and choosy about where I want to be seen, where I don't want to be seen. So I feel that I still do, and I will probably continue doing, because it helps me build on one-to-one with my customers, and they always want to meet the brand owner, the face behind the brand they want to meet. If I am a customer, I want to know who's making my clothes or who's making my furniture. I think that really gives me a lot of trust and faith in the brand. So I always want to keep those doors open with my customers. I also now have started retailing through physical stores. But again, now I'm very picky and choosy. I know that which collection is going to work with which store, because I have a better understanding of the market now. I know that in southern half, this is the kind of stuff that works better. In north, this works better. In this city, this works better. So I'm also very, I make my capsule collections and I give it to the right store, and I keep my product line accordingly based on, what sort of customer I'm going to receive in that area. So that experience I have gained now, and now I feel that now if I collaborate with people, I will be doing it the right way.
So it sounds like the collaborations, they take just as much effort as if you were just to focus specifically on your own brand, on your own products. And it might pay off in the short term because of the influx in sales, but it doesn't pay off as much long term for your brand directly, your own products directly, because again, it takes as much effort, but then it's diluted between you and the potential people that you're collaborating with. Is that what you're getting at with why you...
Yes.
Okay.
Also because there are so many other brands that are there. And probably there is, I think sometimes your brand just gets sabotaged because, it's not visible, or you don't get justice in terms of visibility and the way you would want to portray your brand when there are so many other brands. So that also happens. So I think it's important to be a little picky and choosy about how and where you want to put your brand and what are the kind of customers would be attracted towards your brand.
Yeah, this is, I think, almost specific to maybe fashion, specifically this idea of being picky about where the collaborations, being picky about where your brand is being seen, where your products are being seen. Can you talk a little bit more about this? Like, how do you, well, why do you feel that it's important to be aware of what your brand is associated with your products, where your products are located, and how do you make that decision on whether you should have your products at a particular place or not?
This is something which I realized when I did an exhibition. Actually, honestly, I'll tell you what happened was, since I'm based in the northern part of India, so my understanding of the South, Bombay, Chennai, Bangalore was not too much or too high. I've traveled to those places, but then I realized that I was doing very good sales down south. And I'm a Delhi-based brand. The fabrics I use is cotton. I work with local artisans and crafts, which, those crafts are, all, of course, I source things from all across the country. But my sales are very good in Bombay. And that's when I thought that I should actually do a physical pop-up in Bombay to see that, if I'm getting such good sales and, you get your data and you know that you're doing so well in the southern part of the country, then I might as well go visit there and do a pop-up. Mm-hmm. So when I went there and I realized that there are a couple of things that people there They understand the sensibility of my clothes and my designs. B, the climate conditions are such that cotton works so well there, and people want minimalism. They don't want a lot. They want clean cuts. They want nice silhouettes. So I realized that it's important for me to actually go and focus on these regions more. Because that's my potential customer, and that's going to actually help me grow and build the brand there. Then secondly, what happens is that if you're working so hard on your product, when you're actually putting, for example, in our case, we do everything in house. I have a full setup here now, and I have about a team of around 25 to 30 people, and we do everything in house. From we source our fabrics, our printing happens here, our designing happens here, finishing, stitching, everything happens here. So this helps us keep a very good control over quality. I can't imagine getting things done outside or outsourcing it, because I think my quality control will go down, because I can't supervise things. I can't see everything, every little bit that is happening. And when you put in that much effort in making your product, then you want to place your product at a place where that is going to be appreciated, where that people have an eye to detail, where they actually understand the simplicity of the design. Basically the finesse of the product that you've made. And there are specific stores, and there are certain labels who actually focus on products like that. So then you want to be associated, or you want to build your brand on those lines, and you want to be associated with stores or names or brands like that, because that they will appreciate the hard work that you've put in.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like I was saying, a lot of industries, the goal is just to get your products everywhere. It doesn't matter where the location, doesn't matter where what the products are nearby. Just try to get it everywhere. But with fashion, specifically, the surroundings make a difference in the way you perceive the brand. If it's associated with a lot of customers will associate your products with others depending on how close they are. In the same stores or in the same locations. I think it makes a difference specifically for fashion versus other industries. So I think it's an important thing to think about, being picky about where you list your products. So I want to talk about your experience on Etsy because I think this is a pretty common starting point for a lot of independent fashion labels that are starting up for the first time. Tell us about your experience on there. Like, how did you get started, and what was it like selling through Etsy?
It has actually been very, very simple and easy. Because the platform is it's very easy. You can just click your pictures. You really don't need much of professional help to do anything. I think the simplicity of the process makes it very easy and encouraging for for startups and small labels and brands and small business holders to actually start working on a platform like that. So for me, it was again the same thing. I knew that I would get a very good response. I happened to have lived outside India, and I knew that the kind of sensibility and the designs that I want to work with is going to do very well in the international market. And also I wanted to take Indian crafts on a global platform, and I knew that Etsy would make it really easy for me, because I really don't have to worry about setting up something or too much tech support or anything like that required, me being a non-techie person completely. And that's how it actually happened when I thought that I should try doing it. But what is really interesting is that in the process of doing that, I realized that there were a lot of people from India, or the local customer, who started contacting me, who actually saw my products on Etsy, who saw my products on Instagram, and they started contacting me. And that's when I realized that I have a huge potential in the Indian market as well, because I was under the impression that it's just the global market that's going to work for me. It's outside India, because the sensibility probably will not work well in my locally. But I was absolutely wrong, because it really worked well in the Indian market, and I got a very good response. And it's at that point of time when I actually thought about setting up my own web store.
So when you did set up your own website, were you trying to find ways to migrate your customers to buying directly from the website rather than through Etsy?
Yes, that was one thing. Secondly, I also wanted to focus on the domestic market. So it becomes easier for customers locally to shop from my own web store in India rather than shopping it from Etsy. So there was always a confusion that, do you ship in India? What is your pricing in rupees? And questions like that were being asked. So I thought it makes more sense if I have my own. And also, the creative freedom is more when you have your own web store, because you can probably present your designs the way you want to. With Etsy, the only problem that I found was that my the ability to design my website, or to put my things, or the kind of layouting I wanted, I was not able to do all of that. So it was a formatted model, and I was not able to experiment a lot with those, and I was not able to divide it into various categories the way I would actually want my web store to look like. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have my own store, my own space, which was also because you don't have to actually go through the search engine, but you just go on kharakapas.com and you just log on and you just have a look at the design. The one thing that held me back, or I thought about could be a problem, or the feedback that I got from a lot of people was that you will not get any traffic because nobody goes randomly on a brand name and starts shopping. But that in my case actually was not true, because the response that I've got from the day I built my own web store has been a scale up. It has every month the sales have only increased, and I really haven't, as I mentioned earlier, I really haven't done a lot of paid marketing or anything like that. I think it is Facebook, it's Instagram, and it's just working with good products, clean website, simple process, everything very transparent, and it just worked very well for me, at least enough that I could have handled. What I could have done in my capacity in a year, I was able to handle the pressure. I was able to handle the work. I was able to expand slowly, organically, comfortably through my own web store.
And speaking of expanding, comfortably expanding at your own pace, did you ever feel like that you should kind of kick things up to a higher gear and move faster? Did you ever get this kind of urge to do that? And like, how did you handle that?
Actually, I still get a lot of advice where people have actually told me that I should start looking for investment. And there are people who've offered investment. There are, friends, not friends, I would say, but basically people I've known who've actually work in the finance department, or probably, who are into investment banking and who are into the investment sector. They have told me that, it's time that, you should start looking for investment because you've built such a big brand, and, you can just go bigger and bigger. You can have stores, you can have international presence, you can have all of that. But the reason that I did not do it is because I felt that, the reason why I created Karakapas or created my label was A, for creative satisfaction, for full control over what I was doing. Because for me, it was not a money-making, machine. For me, it was like all my creative energy being utilized in the right manner through my own label, where I had control over everything, where I knew exactly, it was more from heart than mind. And I didn't want to lose that at any point of time by taking external investment. And the way I see things, and luckily, I've been able to, churn out enough money to reinvest in the business again and again. So I really never had that urge or the desire to actually take external investment, or to, just expand overnight or do something like that. I wanted to go slowly, step by step, and I think that the pace at which I'm moving is good enough, very comfortable, and I can actually see the brand now going really, really big from where we've reached so far.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that. I feel like a lot of times we hear from the entrepreneurship world that you should go out of your comfort zone all the time and go faster than you're comfortable with. But I think there is definitely a space and a benefit to going at your own pace, because especially if you want a specific lifestyle that you want to create out of this, you don't want to just be working just for the revenue, for the money, and you actually want to create a lifestyle out of it. I think it is important to really consider what is comfortable for you, what pace is comfortable, what kind of marketing is comfortable for you, and always think about what is actually going to be comfortable for you, because that's the only thing that's going to be sustainable over the long term. You can't force yourself to be uncomfortable for too long, otherwise you'll just burn yourself out. So you said that you've done very little paid marketing, maybe none at all, and it's basically through Facebook and Instagram. Tell us a little more about that. Like, what's your strategy been on there to drive traffic and sales to your website?
It's a little bit of Facebook marketing that we do. And when it comes to paid a bit, the rest is just collaborating with bloggers, local bloggers, and doing I think that what has worked really well for us is that we get a very good response from our customers all across the world. They share images of our products and they tag us. They always write their feedbacks, and we've been very transparent about it. It's all out on the social media. And I think that really has worked well for us in terms of getting more and more people to actually come and see the brand and, shop from us. In terms of paid bit, we do a little bit of Facebook marketing, which is not very high, which is very minimalistic, and just collaborating with a lot of bloggers. But again, those collaborations, we don't do paid collaborations. They are just people who like what we do. They like our clothes, they like our sensibility, and they want to write about us. And they pick their stuff and they want to write. They do some shoots, and we just share everything on Facebook. And I think that's how it has worked for us. And we've also in the process got covered by some, local journals, some magazines, and people who've liked our work, who've seen us in an exhibition, or who've bought something from us, and they happen to be from, one of these magazines, and then that's how it's worked, and that's how we've got covered by social media also. I mean, it's not been. I don't even have a PR person as of now to actually start to work on my PR bit. It's just been very organic.
Yeah, sounds great. I think that's one of, again, another benefits of starting a fashion brand is that it's highly visible. If people love your products, they're going to want to share it because it makes them look better, it makes them look good. And did you find other ways? Do you find ways to encourage people to share the products, your products, them wearing the products on social media?
Of course, I mean we always write to our customers. We send personalized notes to all our customers, and we request them that they should share what they wear, and we want to see them style our products, because what is really important is that we've made a product and we feel that we style it and we shoot in a certain manner. But what is really interesting is to see people all across the world, because we have like somebody from Delhi styling it in a certain manner. We have someone from Australia styling it in a certain manner. There's a customer from UAE who probably has picked up the same product and has styled it differently. So we encourage our customers to share images, and we've been so lucky and so blessed that our customers do that. And they send us pictures, they post pictures on Instagram, on Facebook, they tag us, and we share those pictures. And it's out there, everybody sees it, and I think people really like that we share those images with them. We thank them for sharing that. It encourages other people also to actually experiment with the looks, and I think it's just become like every day I get up in the morning and I have some or the other image that some customer has worn, and they've shared it with us, and they love it when we share it on our social media, and we love it too. So it's just like a very personalized sort of a relationship that we've built, where we just share our experiences, and we share our customers' feedback, their images. They write testimonials for us. We don't ask them to write, but sometimes they just post because they're very happy. So I think it's just been like that. It's just something that just happened on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you started this business last year in 2015. You've been growing at a pace that's comfortable for you. Can you give us an idea of how successful the business is today?
Right, as of now, we started with about a couple of orders in the first month, but on an average, we do an average sale of about $500 to $1,500 in a day sometimes, which I think for us is very good, because it is actually more than what we can handle right now. Mm-hmm. And we also do a lot of pop-ups, which I mentioned in exhibition, where we do very good sales. Sometimes, we do about a couple of $1,000 in an event, which works very well for us, but you have to prepare for the exhibition, and then you do an exhibition, you do very good sales. We also sell through a couple of stores right now. So we've collaborated with about 4 or 5 stores, and we get about $1,000 to $1,500 sale every month from there. So it's just been growing like that. We're just trying to expand our channels of sale. We're trying to expand. We're hoping that we will be able to expand our sales on our own website by introducing more product lines more frequently. So we've just finished 1 year plus, so we've done about 5 collections so far. We're thinking of doing probably more collections more often, because now we have repeat customers. So they're always constantly looking for something new on the website. So there is one part where we try to, get more customers, new customers. And then there are old customers who are always looking for something new. So I think our endeavor is actually to start doing some new collections more frequently, tying up with more stores, doing more pop-ups to increase our sales. And so that's about it. That's what we're focusing on right now. And of course, we also have a little bit of international presence. We do sell internationally through our portal, but we also have a couple of stores who pick up pieces from us and who sell internationally. So we do have that sort of presence, and we're also trying to open our own store very soon. We do have a studio where customers come here, a workshop come studio where people come and shop, but we've been asked by a lot of people to actually have an independent physical store of our own. And that's what our goal for this year is, that if we can set up a physical store, at least locally, in Delhi NCR, and then probably think about expanding it all across, probably in other cities as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of great success, especially just within about a year of being in business, and also a very bright future based on what you're telling me. So, thanks so much for your time, Shilpi. Karakapas.com. Again, that's KHARAKAPAS.com. Anywhere else you recommend that listeners check out if they want to follow along with what you guys are up to?
Yes, of course, you can follow us on Instagram. We are very active on Instagram and Facebook also. So our Instagram account is Instagram Karakapas. So you can hashtag or you can find us there. And so we generally keep it updated with what we're doing and what's happening next.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll link all that in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for your time, Shilpi.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial.